Everyone thinks the Caribbean starts where your passport gets stamped. But here's the weird part. Some of the most Caribbean-looking water in America is hiding inside Florida, and almost nobody talks about it. I'm talking turquoise lagoons, powder white sand, and islands so remote you need a boat just to step on them. Places where the water looks like the Bahamas, but the nearest gas station sells key lime pie and sunscreen. And what nobody tells you is why these places stay invisible. Sometimes it's geography, sometimes it's access, and sometimes they're hiding in plain sight, right next to tourist hotspots everyone else flocks to. In this video, we're counting down that look shockingly Caribbean, from a national park sitting 70 miles into the Gulf, to a secret lagoon 5 minutes from Palm Beach, to an island that somehow feels like it drifted north from the Bahamas. But then there's the one spot near the top of this list, where the watercolor is so unreal people assume the photos are edited. Think you know Florida's best beaches? Let's test that. And trust me, your travel mistake. It's a life regret with sunscreen. Let's break it down. Number 5. Dry Tortugas National Park. If Florida had a place that absolutely feels like it shouldn't belong to the United States, it's this one, Dry Tortugas National Park. This place sits about 70 miles west of Key West, which already feels like the end of civilization. And then you keep going, straight into open ocean. Eventually, you hit a cluster of tiny islands surrounded by water so bright turquoise, it looks like someone cranked up the saturation in Photoshop. But the real twist? Almost nobody goes. Here's the data that explains why this place still feels like a secret. The park gets about 80,000 visitors per year. Compare that to Everglades National Park's approximately 1 million visitors annually. It's 99% water, covering about 100 square miles of ocean. Visibility while snorkeling can reach 60 to 80 feet, which is basically Caribbean-level clarity. The only way to reach it is by ferry, 2.5 hours, private boat, or seaplane. Translation: this place filters tourists like a nightclub bouncer. The reward? Water that looks closer to the Bahamas than Florida. Coral reefs, sea turtles, sandbars glowing bright white in the sun. And sitting in the middle of it all is Fort Jefferson, a massive 19th century brick fortress that looks like someone dropped a Civil War castle into the Caribbean. A Reddit traveler once summed it up perfectly. Dry Tortugas feels like you accidentally found a national park in the Bahamas that somehow belongs to Florida. Honestly, that's pretty accurate. The remoteness is exactly why this place feels so different. No resorts, no cruise ship crowds, no beach bars blasting bad reggae covers. Just islands, birds, coral reefs, and ridiculously clear water. But here's the trade-off. Getting here takes effort and money. The ferry from Key West costs around $200 per person, and the seaplane option can run $400 plus round trip, which explains why most tourists stop at Key West, drink a margarita, and call it a tropical experience. Meanwhile, the most Caribbean-looking water in Florida sits quietly another 70 miles away. And here's a funny contrast. In Florida, you can stand in one place with 80 feet of underwater visibility and almost no people, while just a few hours away, another beach is packed like a spring break sardine convention. Nature versus crowds. Pick your fighter. Let's talk about travel expectations for a second. People go to Key West and say, wow, this feels tropical. Yeah, because the bars have palm tree decorations and someone's playing steel drums. But then there's Dry Tortugas, actual turquoise water, coral reefs, sea turtles, wild islands, and people skip it because it requires planning. Apparently, Americans will cross an ocean for vacation, but if a ferry ride lasts longer than a Marvel movie, suddenly it's too much. Be honest, would you take a 2.5-hour ferry for water like this? Yes or no? Drop it in the comments. If this video helped you discover a place you didn't know existed, hit the like button, not because YouTube demands it, but because the algorithm apparently runs on attention and mild guilt. And subscribe if you like finding places most travel lists miss. Think of it as a survival skill. One day your friends will be arguing about where to vacation and you'll casually drop a location nobody's heard of. That's not showing off, that's strategic knowledge. Number 4. Peanut Island Lagoon. Palm Beach is famous for a lot of things. Mega yachts, billionaire mansions, golf courses that cost more than your car. But 5 minutes offshore sits something weirdly different. Peanut Island Lagoon. And here's the twist. This tropical-looking in the early 2000s, Palm Beach County built a 13-acre snorkeling lagoon on the island. They added sand, shaped the shoreline, and installed artificial reef structures. The result? A pocket of calm, ridiculously clear turquoise water that looks like it belongs somewhere near the Bahamas, but almost nobody outside South Florida talks about it. Here's why this place feels so Caribbean. The lagoon stays waist deep and protected from ocean waves. Water clarity can reach 20 to 30 feet visibility on calm days. Peanut Island Park itself covers about 80 acres in the middle of the Intracoastal Waterway. Annual visitors hover around 200,000, which sounds like a lot until you compare it to nearby Palm Beach's millions of tourists every year. Translation: millions of people vacation in Palm Beach, while this tropical lagoon sits quietly offshore. One local Reddit user put it bluntly: everyone posts photos from Palm Beach, but locals know the real swimming spot is Peanut Island, because when the sun hits the pale sand under that shallow water, the lagoon turns this bright aqua color that feels suspiciously Caribbean, all without leaving the marina, which is either brilliant city planning or Florida accidentally creating a tropical cheat code. The weird magic of Peanut Island is contrast. You're surrounded by luxury yachts, marinas, and Palm Beach mansions worth $30 million or more, but step into that lagoon and suddenly it feels like you're floating in a private Caribbean bay. Kids snorkeling, paddleboards drifting by, boats anchored just outside the lagoon. And because you have to take a water taxi or private boat to reach the island, the crowds stay manageable. No highways, no beach parking chaos, no condo towers blocking the sunset, just water. And it's one of the few places in Florida where a billionaire's yacht and a family snorkel trip share the same view, which is kind of poetic, or at least extremely Florida. And here's the ironic joke: people fly thousands of miles to find clear tropical water. Meanwhile, Palm Beach accidentally built one in the middle of its boating channel. Florida has this hilarious pattern. Cities will spend millions marketing their beaches. Billboards, ads, tourism campaigns, influencers posing dramatically with coconuts. Meanwhile, the best swimming spot is hiding behind a marina and requires a water taxi. No marketing, no giant signs, no top 10 beaches lists. Just locals quietly enjoying it while tourists crowd the obvious spots. It's like Florida built a tropical lagoon, then forgot to brag about it, which might be the smartest thing Florida has ever done. Number 3. Egmont Key. At the mouth of Tampa Bay sits a small island most people in Tampa barely talk about, Egmont Key. And here's the weird part: it's sitting right next to a metro area of over 3 million people, yet it still feels like you accidentally discovered a Caribbean island. No roads, no hotels, no beach resorts, just a lighthouse, old brick ruins from the 1800s, and miles of bright sand surrounded by clear Gulf water that turns shockingly turquoise on calm days. So why does it look so tropical? Geography. Egmont Key sits where Gulf currents push clean sand across the shoreline, constantly refreshing the seabed. That pale sand reflects sunlight, which gives the water that Caribbean blue-green color. And because boats anchor along the sandbars in shallow water, the whole place starts to look like one of those Bahamas sandbar scenes you see all over travel Instagram. Except this one sits 20 minutes from Tampa Bay. Here's what makes the place even stranger. Egmont Key State Park covers about 440 acres. The island has 0 permanent residents. It's accessible only by boat or ferry. Visitor estimates hover around 50,000 to 60,000 people annually. Meanwhile, nearby Clearwater Beach gets millions of visitors every year, which basically means Tampa's most tropical looking beach. Funny how that works. Florida tourists will happily sit in 45 minutes of beach traffic circling for parking like sharks, but ask them to take a 20-minute boat ride to a deserted island? Suddenly it's too complicated. Human logic is fascinating. What Egmont Key offers is something rare in Florida: quiet. You'll see dolphins cruising the shoreline, sea turtles occasionally surfacing offshore, and pelicans diving into the water like they're practicing for the Olympics. The beaches are scattered with driftwood. Old military ruins peek out of tropical vegetation, and the lighthouse stands above it all like some weird mix of Caribbean postcard and Civil War history lesson. It feels untouched, not because it's hidden, but because it requires one small extra step most travelers skip, which means while Clearwater Beach is packed with umbrellas and jet skis, Egmont Key quietly sits offshore looking like someone misplaced a tropical island. Florida beach parking might be the most ridiculous sport in America. You drive, you circle, you see a spot, someone else dives into it like it's the last lifeboat on the Titanic. Then you spend $40 to park 3 zip codes away. Meanwhile, there's an island offshore with perfect water and 0 parking problems. Because, shocking concept, boats don't circle for parking. Sometimes the smartest move in Florida is simply leaving the road entirely. Picture this: you step off a small boat onto bright sand. The water around the island is glowing blue-green. Dolphins surface just offshore. The only buildings are an old lighthouse and a few quiet ruins hidden under palm trees. No traffic noise, no beach crowds, just wind, waves, and a place that feels strangely disconnected from the mainland. And yet Tampa's skyline is sitting right across the bay. Number 2. Boca Grande Sandbars. Most people drive straight past Boca Grande without realizing what's hiding feels like a secret. Boca Grande sits on Gasparilla Island, a quiet barrier island on Florida's Gulf Coast. It's famous for one thing: tarpon fishing. In fact, Boca Grande Pass is considered one of the best tarpon fishing spots in the world. But the real surprise isn't the fishing, it's the sandbars. Because just offshore, the seabed flattens into long stretches of pale sand sitting under shallow water. When the sun hits it, the Gulf turns that bright turquoise blue color you normally associate with the Caribbean. Suddenly, boats start anchoring everywhere, people wading through waist-deep water, paddleboards drifting past, and the whole place starts to look suspiciously like a Bahamas sandbar party. Here's the data that explains why it still feels under the radar. Boca Grande's population is only about 1,700 residents. Gasparilla Island spans roughly 7 miles long. Nearby tourist hubs like Fort Myers Beach see millions of visitors annually, while Boca Grande stays relatively quiet. Average home prices here hover around $2 to $4 million, which definitely keeps casual tourism low. Crime rates are extremely low, about 70 to 80% lower than the US average. Translation: small town, low crowd. Grande feels like the Hamptons of Florida, except everyone's secretly here for the water, which might be the most accurate summary on the internet. And here's the ironic joke: people search for hidden tropical islands all over the world. Meanwhile, Boca Grande is just quietly sitting there like, yeah, we've had turquoise water this whole time. But sure, go book that 10-hour flight. The sandbars here create a vibe that's completely different from a normal beach. Instead of sitting on the shore, everyone gathers out on the water. Boats anchor in shallow areas. People hop in and stand around chatting. Kids swim between sand patches. Dolphins sometimes cruise through the area like they're inspecting the party. It's basically a floating island community. And because Boca Grande never turned into a giant tourist hotspot, it still feels strangely relaxed. No high-rise condos, no spring break chaos, just boats, bright water, and one of Florida's prettiest coastal views. But here's the twist: the exact thing keeping Boca Grande peaceful is also what keeps it off most travel lists. It's quiet, expensive, harder to reach, which means the water stays clean, the sandbars stay uncrowded, and the island keeps its low-key charm. In other words, sometimes the best tropical places stay hidden because they never tried to become famous. Florida beach towns fall into two categories. Category 1, tourist chaos, traffic, parking battles, beach chairs packed together like airplane seating. Category 2, places like Boca Grande, quiet streets, golf carts everywhere, houses that cost more than small countries. And here's the weird part: both places have beautiful water, but only one of them makes you feel like you accidentally joined a secret coastal club. The catch? Membership might cost about $3 million and a boat. Small detail: the average Boca Grande home costs more than 10 times the US median home price. So yeah, technically this beach we talked about people refusing to take a simple ferry ride to reach paradise? Yeah, Boca Grande basically said, fine, we'll just make the paradise boat only by default. Number 1. Caladesi Island State Park. If you ask people where Florida's most beautiful beaches are, they'll usually say Miami, Key West, maybe Clearwater. Fair answers. But the strange thing is one of the most Caribbean-looking beaches in the entire United States sits right next to Clearwater, and most tourists still miss it. Caladesi Island State Park. This barrier island feels like something that drifted north from the Bahamas and quietly parked itself off the Gulf Coast. No resorts, no beach bars, no condos towering over the sand. Just white shoreline, mangroves, and water that turns that electric turquoise color when the sunlight hits the Gulf. And the secret ingredient? The sand. Caladesi's beaches are made mostly from quartz crystals, which reflect sunlight incredibly well. That's why the water looks so bright. Caladesi Island covers about 2,500 acres of protected land. The island gets roughly 200,000 visitors per year. Meanwhile, nearby Clearwater Beach sees over 5 million visitors annually. There are 0 permanent residents and 0 hotels. The island is only reachable by ferry, private boat, or kayak, so millions of people pack the beaches next door, while this island quietly stays half empty. One Reddit traveler summed it up perfectly: Caladesi looks like a Caribbean postcard, but you can still hear birds instead of jet skis. That's the difference. What makes Caladesi special isn't just the color of the water, it's the silence. Walk far enough down the shoreline and you'll see nothing but sand, driftwood, and the Gulf stretching out in front of you. No No crowds, no traffic noise, just wind moving through sea oats and waves rolling in slowly. And that's rare in Florida, because most tropical-looking beaches eventually get covered in condos, umbrellas, and rental jet skis named something like Sea Thunder 9000. Caladesi never less than an hour from Tampa, in one of the most visited coastal regions in the state, which means the #1 Caribbean-style beach in Florida is hiding right next to one of the busiest tourist beaches in America. Human travel patterns are weird. We'll fly across oceans for paradise, but add one ferry ride, and suddenly the place stays quiet. Tourism logic is hilarious. People will spend weeks planning a Caribbean vacation. Flights, hotels, passports, airport security, customs lines. But if you tell them, hey, there's a tropical island beach 15 minutes away by ferry, suddenly the reaction is, sounds like effort. Apparently the true barrier to paradise isn't distance, it's mild inconvenience. If this video helped you discover places most travel guides somehow skip, hit the like button. Not because it changes the world, but because it convinces the algorithm we're doing something useful. And subscribe if you like finding hidden places like this. Think of it as travel insurance. One day someone will say, let's go somewhere cool, and you'll already know the spot nobody else has heard of. You're welcome in advance.